Dear brethren, I think this is an interesting subject from the Old Testament. We have the picture, and I think it is a providence of God that I didn't finish this subject, which I began in the beginning of the year. And we can see that as matters go on, we see that the thing, as Brother Johnson explained it, is fully correctly. We see on the left side the king of Israel and on the right side the king of Judah. And we can see also this one, which are green, were good kings, and this which are red were bad kings. And we know that we have two sons. We have here Ahab and his sons. And we have also the daughter of Ahab. So all of these which are red were rather bad. The exception we have is this one is not the king, but the queen, but we will see that is very interesting, and the explanation which gave Brother Johnson in respect of Athaliah. About Jehoram of Judah, we can read in 2 Chronicles 21 and 6. And he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, as did the house of Ahab. For he had the daughter of Ahab to wife. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Jehovah. Jehoram of Judah left the way of his grandfather Asa and his father Jehoshaphat, as his wife Athaliah was a daughter of Ahab. The chief wrongs of the house of Ahab were Baal worship, exploitation of common people, Ahab's prohibited marriage with heathen Jezebel, and the persecuting of the servants of the Lord. Our consideration focuses on 2 Chronicles 21st and scriptures from 1st and 2nd Kings. About Jeroboam, king of Israel and son of Ahab, we read in 2 Kings 3 and 2. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Jehovah, but not like his father and like his mother, for he put away the pillar of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he cleaved unto the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, wherewith he made Israel to sin, he departed not therefrom. About Jeroboam of Israel, we read in 1 Kings 12, 28 to 31, whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and he said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold, see, gods of Israel, which brought thee up out of the land Egypt. And he set the one in Bethel, and the other put he in Dan. And this thing became a sin. For the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. And he made houses of high places, and made priests from among all the people that were not of the sons of Levi. We said that Jehoram of Judah followed the wrongs of the 3 kings of Israel, but in a more attenuated form. We see Jehoram that Ahab had 2 sons. We explained former. It was Ahaziah and Jehoram of Israel. Jehoram of Judah is typical of reactionary, strongly traditionalist and conservative, but we are to remember that Jehoram of Judah did not go to the extremes of Ahab's house. Worship of Baal, what means Baal is Lord of Satan, serving the interests of Satan consciously or unconsciously by imitating Satan and the grasping for power like a usurping autocracy. Europe has been guilty of usurpatory autocracy as Ahab. Ahab is a picture of Europe as a whole, and Ahaziah is a picture of Europe in its independent states individually. In the interest of royalty, aristocracy, and the pagan priesthood, Europe exploited and oppressed the common people. The Greek and Roman Catholic priesthoods are pagan counterfeits of the true priesthood of Christ. For Europe, there has been a divinely forbidden union of church and state, accompanied by divinely forbidden submission of the state to the church. At the command of the church, Europe has persecuted the Lord's truth, his faithful mouthpieces, and their supporters. Europe has been guilty of imperialism. It means the endeavor of state to extend their power far beyond their own national borders. Rival nationalism and all the evils that result from it, such as wars, unjust annexations, hypocritical diplomacy, financial frauds. The worship of two golden calves of Jeroboam types Europe's submission to sectarianism and clericalism, based on two sets of supposedly divine golden principles. Jeroboam of Judah walked in an attenuated form in the way of antitypical Jehoram of Israel, which is the picture of enhanced Europe. This led America to participate more or less in Europe's rivalries and to cooperate with the Allies in many of their injustices against the vanquished. America often protested against their injustices, but later accepted them as established facts and cooperated with the Allies, as can be seen from the cooperation with them on the condition resulting from the division of East and West Germany under French manipulation. As long as America walks on the side of the antitypical Jehoram of Israel, so long will it walk in his ways, in the ways of antitypical house of Ahab, sharing in his spirit and his guilt. But why did Jehoram of Judah walk in the ways of the house of Ahab? Second Chronicles tells us that he had Ahab's daughter Athaliah as his wife. In E-Volume 3, page 210, we read, whenever any of Napoleon's officers would go wrong, he would immediately inquire who was the woman in the case. While this was an unjust slap at every good woman whose husband or friend had gone wrong, there was much pertinence in the remark as respect that woman. Jehoram of Judah walked in the ways of the kings of Israel because Ahab's daughter Athaliah was his wife. All of this is also typical. Athaliah is a picture of the American Roman Catholic Church, a daughter of Jezebel. So we see Jezebel is a picture of the Catholic Church in Europe. And as we have seen on the 8th of May, the American Roman Catholic Church plays a certain role. And the explanation which gave Brother Johnson in this respect are very, very good, I think. And I self was somewhat astonished that about the pace in which the things are going on. They are going on even quicker and quicker. She can be called the daughter of the antitypical Ahab because she is a product of the divinely forbidden union of state and church in Europe, of Ahab and Jezebel. We speak about as a liar. The Roman Catholic Church is in its spirit European, reactionary, autocratic, and sectarian. Rome has a specific history, doctrines, practices, and organization, and that's why it is un-American or not American. The Roman Catholic Church is not American. That are the words of Brother Johnson, and I think they are very good. And I observed even surrounding the Pope's funeral. I even such little things as who was present and who was not present were very significant for my understanding. In 2 Chronicle 21 and 7, yet the Lord was not willing to destroy the house of David because of the covenant which he had made with David. And since he had promised to give a lamp to him and his sons forever. Many divinely favored principles were still operative in America. Antitypical David are God's faithful. God's people had better opportunity to serve the Lord in America. We think of the other situation in Europe as which for the Lord's people were not so good as in America. We must remember about it. God's covenant with these to enable them to complete their divinely ordained work is the reason for his withholding from America the reactionary wrath that will come in the symbolic earthquake. We have 3 levels: wind, earthquake, and fire. The little flock, therefore, was the salt of the earth. In Matthew we read, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a lamp and put it under the bushel, but on the stand, and it shineth unto all that are in the house. Even so let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven." Further, we read about Jehoram of Judah. In these days, Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah and made the king over themselves. Edom is a picture of conservative labor as oppositional to America's reactionary. So Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah unto this day. Judah was able to escape defeat at the hand of Edom, but lost dominion over Edom, never to regain it again. Labor became oppositional, bitter, and on the alert to smash government reactionism. The attitude will be in place until the symbolic earthquake. In 2 Chronicle 21 and 10 we read, "Then did Libnah revolt at the same time from under his hand, because he had forsaken Jehovah, the God of his fathers." Libnah was a city of Judah and was assigned to the priest as a dwelling place. The antitype is a dwelling place for antitypical priests. Libna, whiteness, brightness, transparency, Hebrew equivalent of the Greek epiphania, that is the Epiphany. Libna represents the Epiphany enlightened saints that clearly manifest certain persons, principles, and things that are revolutionary against God's teachings and arrangements. The priests of Libna revolted against Jehoram of Judah. They opposed governmental reactionism in America because it has forsaken certain divinely approved principles of government. Divinely approved principles of government are liberty, equality, isolation from Europe's politics, and help of European needs. We read further in Chronicles, moreover, he, Jehoram of Judah, made high places in the mountains of Judah and made the inhabitants of Jerusalem to play the harlot and led Judah astray. High places of two kinds. First, sacrifice for Jehovah apart from tabernacle and the temple. And second, sacrifice for heathen God. God required the people to sacrifice to him only through the priest at the tabernacle or temple. In exceptional cases, circumstances, times, and places, when it was impossible to reach the Levitical priesthood and altar, the Lord permitted the use of altars and high places for sacrifices to him and accepted the sacrifices offered thereon. In Judges we read, so Manoah took the kid with the meal offering and offered it up on the rock unto Jehovah. And the angel did wondrously, and Manoah and his wife looked on. Tabernacle and the temple type the true church. The Lord's altar represents the Lord's people, so the heathen altar represents the nominal people of God, and the high place, the denomination of Christendom. Jehoram, or America reactionary, who builds the high places, represent reactionary officials who support the various denominations. There is also an alliance between prominent statesmen and politicians. Antitypical Jehoram on the one hand, and the American Catholic Church. Antitypical Athaliah on the other hand. Elisha sending Jehoram's a letter. In 2 Chronicles we read, and there came a writing to him from Elisha, the prophet, saying, thus says Jehovah, the God of David, the father, because thou hast not walked in the way of Jehoshaphat, the father, nor in the ways of Asa, king of Judah, but hast walked in the way of the kings of Israel, and hast made Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to play the harlot, like as the house of Ahab did, and also has slain the brethren of the father's house, who were better than thyself. Behold, Jehovah will smite with the great plague the people and the children and the wives and all the substance. The letter was written after the death of Jehoshaphat. Therefore, we have placed this letter after the end of the World War, but before the World Revolution. The World Revolution will not come until after the antitypical Jehoram dies. Ahaziah of Judah is the type of the face of the dominant American policy at the time of the Great Revolution. Asa is a type of America free, equal, and isolated as to Europe. Jehoshaphat is shown as America free, equal, and benevolent to Europe in its policy and practices. In the antitypical letter of Elijah, the sins of the house of Ahab were set forth in type and antitype, with the similar policies and actions of Jehoram of Judah in type and antitype. And they are autocracy, a system of government in which absolute power is held by the head of state. Priestcraft, as against common people, persecution of religious dissenters, suppress opposition, alliance of false religion and state. We are currently experiencing a profound and rapid change in the relationship between symbolic Judah and Israel. The speed of change is accelerating. It is a sign that we are taking a giant step towards the kingdom of God. In volume 3, Brother Johnson tells us that autocracy is the antitypical Ahaziah. The punishment that came to Jehoram, the source of the punishment is God. Punishment of or taken away by enemies of reactionism. Possession. Wives, which are arrangements for the cooperation with churches. People are supporters and son are policies. Personal punishment of disease and long suffering. Overthrow of reactionism as an ideology, reactionism as a tradition in right-wing politics. The reactionary stance opposes policies for the social transformation of society, whereas conservatives seek to preserve the socio-economic structure and order that exists in the present. Long suffering of reactionism in all its organization, theories, and acts. Father Johnson gives general explanation to 2 Chronicles and the statement that the details cannot be given until fulfilled. The forward from volume 3 I saw was from January 1938. In 2 Chronicles 21:16 we read, "And Jehovah stirred up against Jehoram the spirit of the Philistines and of the Arabians that are beside the Ethiopians. Jehoram's punishment, first by stirring up the spirit of the Philistines and those Arabs who dwelt beside the Ethiopians." So we have the Philistines, villagers living in a miniature town, typing the followers of a miniature religious government. Represent sectarians, politicians, capitalists, clergy, etc., as are enemies of reactionism. Arabians or travelers, wanderers, represents treacherous, unstable friends, corrupt politicians, capitalists, clergy, etc., as are treacherous, unstable friends of reactionism. Today we see Iran and Yemen causing troubles. Shortly before Christmas 2024, a 50-year-old man from Saudi Arabia had driven a car at the high speed through the Christmas market in Magdeburg, Germany. We are observing the situation in Syria. After the attack in New Orleans on 31st December 2024, in which 15 people were killed, the authorities assume an Islamistic background. In 2 Chronicles we read, "And they came up against Judah and brake into it and carried away all the substance that was found in the king's house, and his sons also and his wives, so that there was never a son left himself. Jehoahaz, which is Ahaziah, the youngest of his sons. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, his youngest son, king in his stead. Jehoram's riots, Protestant sects, except one, Azalia, are taken by the Philistines and the Arabs. The American Catholic Church, as the antitypical Azalia, will not be so separated. It will stand by reactionism to the end and then support its successor, the antitypical Ahasia, dominant American policy at the time of revolution. Further, we read, 42 years old was Ahasia when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri. And the New American Standard Version says the granddaughter, and it is rather correct. Jehoram's punishment was also be internal difficulties, troubles that reactionism will have from theories, movements, aims, organization, which will fall into disorder. Jehoram's illness lasted 2 years. 32 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years. And he departed without being desired, and they buried him in the city of David, but not in the sepulchres of the kings. And Joram slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. Slept with his fathers. Reactionism will take its place with the others, but better American policies, antitypical Asa and Jehoshaphat, as no longer the dominant American policy. Jehoram's burial in the city of David. God's faithful will nevertheless esteem some of the things that antitypical Jehoram did, affording them favorable opportunities for their priestly work. Jezebel types the Roman Catholic Church. Jehu types conservative labor. Naboth, a citizen of Jezreel, was executed by Jezebel so that her husband Ahab could possess his vineyard. Naboth owned a vineyard that was close to Ahab's palace in Jezreel. Jezreel, the place where Ahab lived, with the heathen Jezebel, types the European Union and cooperation of state and church. Joram went to war with Ahaziah against Hazael. He was wounded and went to Jezreel to be healed. Ahaziah visited Joram in Jezreel. And this, I see I'm short time is short, 11 volume 12. In this valley, Jezreel occurred the conflict between Jehu on the one hand and Joram of Israel and Ahaziah of Judah on the other, resulting in the death of Joram and Ahaziah, the latest death occurring at Megiddo or Armageddon. Typical of the Battle of Armageddon, in which conservative labor will overthrow European reactionism and American autocracy in worldwide revolution, which will overthrow Satan's empire in state, church, and capital. And Jehu drew his bow with his full strength and smote Joram between his arms. And the arrow went out at his heart, and he sank down in his chariot. But when Ahaziah, the king of Judah, saw this, he fled by the way of the garden house. And Jehu followed after him and said, "Smite him also in the chariot." And they smote him at the ascent of Ger, which is by Ibleam. And he fled of Megiddo and died there. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned 1 year thereafter. Athaliah reigned 6 years. Interesting in this connection is the order. First, Jehoram died, a picture for Europe. Second, Ahaziah, a picture for autocratic America. And then Jezebel. Jezebel describes the destruction of the Romanism. Only the memory of her teaching, practices, and conduct remains. That was as Jezebel died, only her skull, her hands, and her feet remained. There were 3 times when they went out to meet Jehu to prevent the things from going on. Also, Brother Johnson anticipated fulfillment sooner. We see Brother Johnson's interpretation of the matters to be correct. In a telephone conversation shortly before his death, former German President Horst Köhler, who passed away on 1st February 2025, said in a final telephone conversation with Theo Weigel that Europe is facing its biggest problem since 1948, and it is not prepared for it. And we come to an end. We are slightly over time. Do you know that Asa, Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, sometimes called Joram, and Ahaziah, 4 of the kings of Judah, were successively on Judah's throne during the Ahab dynasty and the 10-tribe kingdom of Israel, and that as such, from certain standpoints, they typed the fact that 4 distinct lines of policy would be active in America toward Europe, while 3 lines of policy typed by Ahab, Ahaziah, and Joram would be active in Europe. Not this one, I have not.
Got a lot of blank pages, but
What changes have there been recently that fit our picture? Changes of the relation to Europe and especially to Ukraine and Russia. Changing relations to the United Nations. Imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court. That is interesting because this International Criminal Court issues also arrest warrant of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Withdrawal from the World Health Organization of the US. Withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement declares a US energy emergency to expand oil and gas production. Elon Musk and other rich persons appear alongside Donald Trump. And we read, do you know that in America we have an aristocracy, not of nobility, but of wealth, whose members act towards their employees more or less as the feudal laws did to their vassals, human serfs, etc. What does it mean? Things are speeding up, and we have seen great steps towards the kingdom. The brethren, so far a short explanation of this picture, and what is the lecture of this is we see rising pace of all the matters which are going on, and we see also the explanation of Brother Johnson very good in this respect, because we are still before the world revolution, and we know that these things are before us, and we see that we are making great steps into this direction. So out of this knowledge, I appreciated that we could gather here, that we had the privilege to being here together. We don't know what will bring the future, but we see great changes are in the world. I wish the blessing of the Lord out of this short message, and thank you for the attendance.